Hi, I'm Skinny Cheeks. PTS for update 33 is right around the corner, and as usual, I'll be doing a big patch note review on Twitch whenever the notes go live. Then once I've had time to let it all sink in a bit, I'll break down the important information further for videos here on YouTube. I have put out a couple of videos covering some other information we've already received, so make sure to check those out if you haven't already. I'll have them linked in the description below. There are some pretty sweet new sets coming in the dungeon pack for update 33. Maybe a little too good. We'll see what happens over the course of the PTS with those. For this video though, we did just get a combat preview from Gilliam that has some juicy new info about some of the stuff we'll be seeing. So let's go ahead and hop into that. Greetings. Today, the combat team would like to officially welcome you to 2022 by giving you some insight on what's coming to combat in the first update of the year. We've been keeping a close eye on all of the adjustments we made over 2021, and we're relatively happy with how the game has been evolving combat-wise with character expression and freedom of build choices, and we are dedicated to continuing this work through and through where it matters most. In Update 33, the changes are focused on making almost every player ability in the game scale dynamically with your highest offensive stats when applicable. Similar to what we've worked on with passives and item sets, we want to ensure you feel empowered to pick an ability or weapon based on the gameplay mechanics and expression they offer you first and foremost, with fewer restrictions. This means any ability that used to scale exclusively with spell damage and max magicka will now dynamically scale with weapon damage and max stamina, and vice versa. With this, we want to retain the identity of many playstyles by reinforcing ability cost as a limiting factor in how frequently you can engage with abilities, but with less concern as to how powerful that ability is based on what stat path you've chosen. So they didn't list weapon and spell crit here, but I assume that these will scale with your highest crit percentage as well, since that's how the current hybrid abilities work. I honestly think this is pretty cool. This could go a number of different ways depending on how exactly it's implemented, but essentially this opens the doors even further to different viable build options. If you want to be a magicka user that does two-handed and dual wield, that is going to be a strong option, even using the active abilities from those skill lines now, such as Stampede or Whirling Blades, for example. And the same will go for a stamina-based character that wants to use magicka abilities. Your main concern now will be, how often am I casting this off-resource ability, and will I be able to sustain that? So based on the abilities that you pick for your setup and how often you cast them, that might decide whether you want to go the stamina or the magicka route. But we'll see more details on this when the patch notes come through, so let's go ahead and move on. We will also be dual sourcing buffs on abilities and item sets like Major Prophecy and Major Savagery, with the same thing applying to Brutality and Sorcery. In the long term, we plan on simply merging these bonuses so there are fewer names and effects you need to worry about, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that will result from that. As such, it may take quite some time before we're able to do that. So I noticed this doesn't say potions. I'm interested to see what they do there, if they'll combine those. But a skill like Camo Hunter will now give both Major Savagery and Major Prophecy, which is pretty cool, and the same with Inner Light. I would like to see the Mages Guild passives change to give a little boost to stamina users as well, in the way that Fighters Guild boosts magicka users, but maybe there is already something like that in the works. In addition to the continuation of hybridization, we've also gone through many abilities and cleaned up some of their functionalities, making sure the ones that aren't used as often receive some sprucing up to make them feel more up to par with abilities of their like. This is in addition to the usual bug fixing and backend improvements and targeting of outlier abilities or sets for balance adjustments. So I'm glad this is something that they're focusing on doing. As a DPS, we are typically just going to pick the morph that deals the most damage, so if there are instead some new cool side effects to some of the skills, there would still be reasons to choose the different morphs. Reading on, some of these are larger in adjustment, such as Power Bash's new functionality of being treated as a bash attack. Wow, this is a pretty crazy change. This is the one hand and shield spammable ability, so now it should receive benefits from champion point stuff that affects bashing or any item set that may affect bash damage. And I assume this means it will automatically interrupt as well. Really cool idea, I think. It really fits perfectly with the theme of it. Next is Piercing Javelin's new functionality of living up to its name and piercing through block. Most of the adjustments are not as flashy or different, but instead gain added quality of life improvements like increased durations for easier management or scaling adjustments. For example, the morphs of Lotus Flower giving you the choice of gaining more healing overall or a significantly longer uptime for less micromanagement. Yeah, I was wondering what they would do with this skill since previously the morphs were only differentiated by giving either spell crit or weapon crit. So now that those two stats are combined, you'll have some different reasons still to decide which morph you want to take here. It'll be interesting too to see how the numbers end up on each of these morphs. If the longer duration one ends up lasting like 60 seconds or something, that could be pretty insane. That wraps up this update's combat adjustments. While the number of changes is by no means small, with the hybrid work we've been doing in the past, we hope this pass is far less turbulent than things have been recently. The goal here is to open the door to more build freedom and diversity. For some players, we know such changes will instill a sense of needing to spend time and effort changing your loadouts, but we believe the long-term benefits will be worth it. Thanks for reading, and we hope to see you all in Tamriel. Thank you, Gilliam, for the write-up. And yeah, I think up front, we will have a bit of an adjustment period for all this. Rotations are going to change a bit if you want to utilize some of the new skills that you have access to. For example, a Stamsork can now use Crystal Fragments and Mage's Wrath at their full power, and a Magsork could work the Stam skills, Bound Armaments, and Hurricane into their rotations. Ultimately, there will be a lot of freedom here, so long as the different options perform similarly. But that's what the PTS is going to be for. It will be a really busy one for me, and I'll be doing a ton of testing. My initial reaction to all of this is that there are going to be so many possible ways to build your character now, so doing builds going forward will be really interesting because of the amount of choices that a player will have that all should perform at a really high level. Of course, there will always be a meta, there will always be an absolute best for certain situations or a best for the trial dummy, but usually different situations in the game vary a bit in what is best, and I think that trend will continue with this new system. Personally, I'm super excited to start messing with all this, and I can't wait to start sharing some of the results I find. Thanks so much for stopping by. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the new hybrid scaling. And in case you missed it, I do have my website live now at skinnycheeks.gg. I have all of the Deadlands builds up there now, and will be working on updating them as fast as I can for the upcoming DLC. And this won't replace my video builds that I do here on YouTube. This will be more of a supplement to it, so if you need to go back and reference something that I might have talked about in the video, maybe it's a little bit easier to scroll through the website and do it that way. Big thanks to my current Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see how you can help support the channel through Patreon, I'll have a link in the description below. And a special thanks to Nicholas, Simon, Privy League Guild on PlayStation's EU server, Cougar is Bay in the Cougar City Guild, the Order of War Guild, Iffy, Cantankerous Cat, Shady, BlakeWin816, and my wonderful wife. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.